Hi guys! So today's video is another one of the to buy or not to buy series, and this time I'm reviewing / trying out the BH Cosmetics Ultimate Lips 28 color lipstick palette. I actually got this palette a while ago already, and I have tried several shades from this palette just because I was too anxious to try them out, but I haven't tried all of the shades. I've only tried a couple of them, and I also wanted to see how long they would actually stay on my lips. So that's why I kind of wanted to try them beforehand. But this time I'm actually going to swatch all of the shades for you, just so you could see what they look like on the lips. So if you have a similar skin tone to mine, it might be very, useful or helpful to anyone who's actually, thinking of buying this palette. You can see what the colors look like on a kind of a fair to light skin tone. In my last to buy or not to buy video, which was about the Dior Skin Air Flash spray foundation, I will link it down below in the description box if you haven't seen it. It was quite a pricey product, whereas this palette is actually very affordable. I believe it was around $14 or $18 or something around that price mark, and I mean you get 28 lipsticks in this, so it is a very, very good deal. Even though the palette is affordable, it's still good to know whether it's worth the money. So yeah, that's why I'm doing this video for you guys. So this is what the palette comes in, kind of like a little sleeve, and the palette itself looks like this. So as you can see, the colors range from nudes and pinks to dark reds and purples, so you get a bit of everything in this palette. But yeah, we're gonna see how this palette performs in a second and how all the colors look like on my lips. So let's jump into the swatches. So I have removed my lipstick that I was wearing before, and I'm going to jump into the first shade, which is from the left hand side. It's the first one. It's kind of a nice pinky nude that has a slight brown undertone, let's just call it like that. They are very, very creamy, and they are very pigmented, as you can see as well. So I'm just going to give you a heads up, these swatches are not going to be perfect simply because I have to do 28 swatches, and I can already tell that my lips are going to be going through hell, absolute hell. So the first shade, as you can see, it actually comes off a lot more pinky, or at least it does on me. I actually really like the color. It's very flattering. It's, it's a nude, it's a pinky nude, so it will go with a lot of different makeup looks that you do. And it's just a nice everyday kind of shade, but I think there are going to be a lot of those because some of the colors are very, very similar in this palette. So yeah, if I get repetitive, please excuse me, because some of the shades in this palette are quite similar. If I had to explain how it kind of feels like on my lips, it's very creamy. It kind of reminds me more of a lip gloss than a lipstick. It's, like one of those very, very pigmented lip glosses, but it's more creamy rather than glossy. It's a very unique formula. So yeah, I can definitely feel it when I press my lips together, and as you can see, it is definitely not kiss proof. But I think it's nice, and I think it's flattering, and it has like a fresh kind of glow about it. So yeah, I really like the first shade. So the next shade in this palette is slightly darker than the first one. It has more of a brown undertone, I'd have to say, compared to the first one, but they are quite similar, but the second one is just a bit darker. So this is the second shade, and again, I like it very much. I think it is a very flattering color, and it's more like a deeper nude, which I think can be very, very beautiful with maybe warm sort of smoky eyes. So now we're going in the third shade, which is this one, and it's more of a kind of a brownie nude. Yeah, definitely more of a brown nude. Kind of like the Kylie Jenner lip trend that was pretty much raved about last year so much. So this is the third shade, and it looks a bit more warm on my lips than it did in the palette. If you just compare these two, it's this one over here. On my lips, it looks a bit more warm, but again, I think it's a stunning color. It's another one of those beautiful nudie shades that you can wear with a lot of different looks. I really like this one as well. So now I'm going into this fourth shade, which is one of the lightest colors in all of the palette, and it is a very beigey, pinky kind of nude color. So this is what the fourth color looks like on my lips. It is so pale. It kind of washes me out. It just looks weird. I think it's just one of those colors that just doesn't suit my skin tone very well. It doesn't look very flattering. I love the color, and I'm very disappointed that it doesn't look good on me because it is a stunning color. I do have to admit it was a bit more difficult to work with than the previous shades. I think it's simply because it is so light. It has a lot of white base in it. It's a bit patchy, and I had to work really hard to get it even. It was very difficult to work with this shade in particular, But yeah, the color itself is beautiful. It just doesn't work on my lips, unfortunately. So yeah, probably gonna pass on this one. So now we're going in the 5th shade, which is again a more pinky kind of nude. This is another one that I feel that is actually flattering on my skin tone compared to the last one. It's very similar to some of the first ones that I tried, but still, I mean, it's beautiful. So yeah, definitely one of the shades that I will wear more often. And we're on to shade number 6, which is yet again more of a brownie kind of nude. It's very close to the shade number 3, but compared to shade number 3, I'd say this contains more of a sort of pinky undertone. As you can see, it is very similar to shade number 3 that I was trying earlier. The only difference is that I think that this has the slightest tinge of more pink in it. But yeah, nonetheless, it's still a very beautiful shade. So we have reached the last shade of the first row, and this is a very, very dark kind of burgundy brown. Ooh. Oh, how disappointed I am. First off, I was really, really excited because this shade is so beautiful. But then, as you can see, it is so patchy. It is incredibly patchy. I can't even tell you. I kind of have a feeling that the shades in this palette that are the most difficult to work with are the lightest ones and the darkest ones. You know, even with this eye makeup, this color is so stunning, but I don't know, it just doesn't look good. So yeah, I'm afraid that shade number 6 is a no-no from me. As you can see, the last shade already kind of stained my lips, and I kind of have a feeling that it's going to get worse when we get to the reds. But we are going to see what this shade does, which is the first shade from the second row, and it is actually very similar to the last one. It's just slightly more like a cherry color. Okay, so this shade is definitely a lot better than the previous one. It's a lot more easy to work with, but again, it's not perfect. It's still a bit patchy. It's a lot less patchy than the darker one. Again, this one looks a bit more brighter on the lips than it does in the pan. In the pan, it looks more like a darker cherry kind of tone. I like this a lot more than I did the previous one. It's a beautiful shade, and it's just like a classic kind of deep red. We are going in to the next shade, and it is more like a pinky kind of red this time. So this is what that color looks like. I feel like it's a very kind of fun pinky red. It looks, again, a bit brighter on the lips, which is not a bad thing whatsoever. This is a very stunning shade for like a night out, or, you know, for like a party kind of look. It looks very feminine, but yeah, fun. We are going in the shade, which looks like a true classic red. It's like a true classic red. I think out of all the reds that we've tried so far, this is definitely the easiest to work with. That's how I felt like. It just glided on the lips the easiest, and it just looks so full and opaque, just like straight off the bat. But just be careful when you wear this kind of creamy red, because I have a feeling that it can smear very easily. And as I said, these colors stain, so if you get them somewhere on your face, I don't think it's going to be a very flattering outcome. So just bear that in mind, but I think the color is beautiful nonetheless. Okay, so we are moving on to the next shade, and this is probably one of my favorites that I've got my eye on, which is the orangey kind of red. This is definitely one of my favorites because it's just so bright and orangey and vibrant, so that's why I like it. Yes, again, it's a very beautiful shade, as I have said pretty much about all of them. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the favorites. Okay, so we're moving on to the corally shade in this palette, and it is this one. Bright and orangey, pinky, corally. Yeah, we'll see how that one looks like. Oh yes, this is definitely, I can't say it so many times, but I feel like that's the only word that I can come up with. It is so beautiful. That's the only thing that comes to mind, seriously. It is stunning. It is just gorgeous. It is, I feel like this shade, when you have a darker skin tone, this, I mean, you could rock this any time of the year. The only thing, again, that you're going to want to take your time with this one, because it's so bright, it can look streaky and patchy, so just take your time with it and build up the color. But I love it, really love it. So the next shade in the palette is a true pink. I think the best way that I can describe this color is like a bubblegum pink. So this is what that one looks like. Again, you want to take your time with this because this tends to get patchy really quickly. I think it's a very girly kind of pink, so if you are, you know, if you're someone who really likes those, I think you will love this color. I definitely like the color, but I just don't know how often I'm going to wear it. Now the next one is again one of the more nudie shades, and compared to the previous ones that we tried, this is definitely more like a beigey, pinky kind of nude. I think this one is more like a peachy kind of nude. I really like it. I really like it. I think it is one of my favorite nudes that is in this palette. I think it's just one of those shades that will go with every makeup look again. You know, it's very versatile and I really like how it looks. Okay, so we have made it to row number 3 and we are starting with this shade over here. This is again one of the more sort of pinky, nudie shades. Is it just me or was the last shade very similar to this one? I feel like they look practically the same. This one and this one, they look extremely similar already in the pan, but I feel like this one is just maybe a tiny bit peachier than the previous one. I like this one again a lot, but it's because it's very similar to the last one, so I like these two the best so far. Yeah, so this one over here is definitely more pinky and peachy, but I think it is again the lightest shade in this palette alongside this one. And this one made me look like a ghost. It kind of washed me out. So I'm a bit dreading this one, but hopefully it will be, you know, not that bad. As I predicted, it is very light yet again. But I feel like this one isn't really as bad. This one is just the tiniest bit better because it has more of a pinky undertone. It's like borderline ghostly, but I think I can still pull it off. Okay, so the next one is kind of more like a plummy shade already. It's still almost like a nudie pinky kind of color, but it definitely has a bit of plum in there. So we are going more towards the purpley shade, so we'll see how that one looks like. This one is a very nice kind of a dusty pink. It's almost kind of mauvey already, but I think that it still has a bit more sort of pink in there rather than mauve. So I stand by what I said earlier. This is a very pretty dusty rosy pink. The next one is definitely, I could say it's a plum shade. That's the best way that I can describe it. It looks like a plum. Now that it's on my lips, it looks more like a berry reddish, purplish kind of shade. It looks brighter on my lips than it does like in the pan. This one looks definitely a bit more dark. I think it's still a very flattering shade, and especially if you're into these berry kind of tones. So yeah, I think it's another winner. Next one is, I feel like this color is very similar to this one. Yeah, so this one is just slightly more dark. This one was so nice to apply. I don't know what it was about this specific shade, but this formula is just, I just glided on like a dream. But yet again, I really like this color. It's a lot more kind of wearable, if you want to call it like that, than I thought it was going to be. And with like a warm smoky eye, I think it will look very nice. So the next shade is yet again more like a berry kind of tone. It is very close to this one over here, but I feel like this one is just slightly brighter and it's not that dark. This is another one of those shades that looks a lot darker in the pan, but I think I like the fact that it's a bit lighter than it is in the pan. I think it makes it more wearable. Okay, and we are down to the last shade in row number 3. This one is again quite similar to the previous shades, but this one definitely looks more red rather than purple. Very much looking forward to this color. It kind of reminds me, at least in the pan, it kind of reminds me of Gerard Cosmetics 1995. So if you know that shade and if you love that shade, you might like this one. Yep, that's what I feel like it looks like. It is like a brick red, brown, purple kind of shade. It's really difficult to explain. But this is one of the shades in this palette that I wasn't expecting to like as much as I do, because it kind of gets lost in the middle of these other shades. Yeah, I really, oh my god, I love it. I love it. It's so gorgeous. Okay, we've made it to the last row, and we're actually going to start off with a very funny looking shade, which is this dark purpley kind of shade. You probably can't really tell from that far away, but this one has kind of like a duochrome sheen to it. It looks as if it's glittery. Maybe from some of the other ones that I compared earlier, you couldn't really tell that well, but this one definitely you can see how much darker it looks like in the pan and how much brighter it looks like on my lips. It looks like a true pink on my lips, and in the pan it looks like a dark purple, like an aubergine kind of purple. If you look up close, you can't see any glitter, or you know, there aren't any sparkles in there, but it just has a sheen. This one looks most like a glossy kind of lip amongst the rest of them, and it feels like a gloss as well. I have to say, this is definitely a bit more sticky compared to the other ones, which I am not a fan of whatsoever. I mean, the color itself is, again, a lot more wearable than I thought it was going to be. If you like, you know, glossy kind of lips, and if you like this kind of shade, and you know, it's something that you would like to wear, then I mean, by all means, but it's just something that I don't think I'm going to reach for that often. Yeah, this one is again a pass for me. So we have made it to the pink row, and we are going to start off with something that I would call Barbie pink. I think the shade next to it is what I would call a Barbie pink as well, but I don't know, this one is a bit more like a dark Barbie pink. Yep, as I said, a Barbie pink. If you are someone who really likes these kind of colors, you will love this shade, because it really is like a true girly pink. That's the best way that I can describe this. I was actually kind of scared that I wasn't going to be able to pull this off, but I actually really like it. I am pleasantly surprised with this one. Okay, and now the next one, which is the more sort of brighter and pinkier kind of Barbie pink. This is actually a lot more neon in real life than it looks in the camera. I have to say that I preferred the previous color just a bit more, because I feel like the previous one I could pull off, whereas this one, I don't know, I think it's just a tad too bright for me, and a tad too kind of in your face, if you know what I mean. It's a beautiful shade, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like I'm not bold enough to wear something like this. Okay, the concealer really isn't covering up much anymore, but still, we only have a couple more shades left and then we'll be done. This one I believe is like the true purple of all the shades in here. Again, because it's like a purple shade, which I don't usually go for, I thought this was something that I wasn't going to like too much. I actually quite like it. It's one of those shades that I feel like you really can't wear something too heavy on the eyes, because it can just look too much. But if you have something subtle on the eyes, then yeah, I think it's very pretty. Okay, and we are moving on to the lightest pink in this palette, I believe. This one looks like, oh my god, how do I say? Like a candy floss kind of pink. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Sorry, I'm so bad with this like color describing thing, but I hope you get the gist of it. So this is very bright yet again, and I think it's another one of those perfect summery shades. But if you love this kind of pinky, like baby pink kind of lips, then you would definitely love this so much, because that's exactly what it looks like. So we are down to the last colored shade in this palette, and it is sort of pinky colored, but this is more like a dusty pink. Actually, I really like it. This one again feels super nice on the lips. It glided on so easily. It just looks very flattering. That's all I can say. I'd say one of the favorites. So just so you can see, that's how stained my lips are. It looks as if I'm wearing a lipstick, but I keep scrubbing it with oil and it's not coming off. Okay, and we made it, guys. We made it. It took us a long time, but we made it. We are down to the absolute last color in this palette, and it is actually not even a color. It's just a shimmery kind of top sort of coat, if you want to say it like that, for the other shades that you can put on to make them look more sort of shiny and glossy. It's just shiny. It's like a see-through gloss. So I guess that's the point of it, so that you can just make it kind of glossy and shiny like this one, and apply on whatever color you want to apply to. Again, if you are someone who is into that kind of glossy thing, you might like it, but I think I'm going to pass on that because, as I said, I'm not very much into glosses. Okay guys, so that completes the swatching part of the video, and I'm just quickly going to give my 2 cents on this palette because I feel like this video has already been so long. Basically, all I can say is that the majority of the colors in this palette I think are stunning. I love most of them. There are only a few shades in this palette that I'm not a fan of, either because they are just a bit patchy on the lips and they're difficult to work with, or simply because they don't work with my skin tone, or they're not colors that I tend to go for, let's just put it like that. So it's just kind of my own personal opinion. There are definitely several shades in this palette that kind of stood out for me and that I will probably reach for the most, and it's definitely such a good deal to get your hands on so many different shades for such an affordable price. Some of the formulas in this are a bit more creamy and others are a bit more sort of satiny. At least that's how they feel like. It's very difficult to explain, but I'm sure if you try it, you know what I mean. And then there are the two shades in this palette which are borderline glossy, which, as I showed before, were the sort of purpley one and the transparent one. So would I recommend this palette and would I say that it is worth picking up? Absolutely, because this is just such a great bargain. Honestly, the quality of these lipsticks, they are a lot better than you would expect. I mean, obviously they're not going to last very long on the lips simply because they're so creamy, and lipsticks usually don't last that long. But all in all, the shades are beautiful and they glide on and they are comfortable on the lips. So I'd say go for it. So thank you so much guys for watching, and I hope this video was helpful in some way for some of you at least. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say for now. So I'll see you in my next one. Bye. You know, if you are kind of similar to my complexion, if you look, you know, if you have some, oh my god, it's a very pretty color. Once again, I like it very much. But yeah, the next one is oh my god, okay, massive fail over there. Just got my whole nail in there. So yeah, good start, good start.